first, Nate and Blake, by thanking you on behalf of Housefires for joining us at the Christian Beat today and talking about some of your current news and experiences you've had, and then the upcoming music that you'll all be releasing.
For sure, happy to be here.
Absolutely. So I do want to start with, actually, before we talk about the music and the new releases, it was announced yesterday about your national TV debut, and I know that Housefires as general got to be featured on Fox and Friends. So just curious for you both on how an experience like that and reach can help impact what Housefires is trying to do as a collective.
Yeah, totally. Neither Nate or I were there, but I did get to see it, and it looked awesome. I think it's, I mean, it's always a really huge opportunity for, I mean, national TV is obviously massive. So for people to get to hear these songs and get a glimpse of like how they can do this in their own lives is always going to be a huge opportunity. Something we're grateful for. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a really big deal that many people get to hear our little songs that we just write and hope that they'll do something meaningful. And so I think that's the most that we can hope from something like that, is that people are able to hear it and that it affects their lives like it's affected ours. Nate, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, I mean, just the gift of modern technology, you know, I mean, in front of so many viewers that maybe otherwise wouldn't have heard our music or kind of tuned into some of the inspiration and the message. So we're grateful. I mean, just to see a song like that start very simply in a little writing room in Atlanta or Nashville. I think it was written in Nashville, but and to be broadcast on national TV is pretty amazing. And you know, our prayer is just that it would encourage people, to inspire people. I mean, I hope people tuned into that got pleasantly surprised. Maybe it shook them up a little bit, like, oh gosh, I was just tuning into the news and kind of my normal weekend thing, and it was like, oh gosh. I mean, you never know. Like, God can do anything that he wants with an open, yielded, surrendered life and a heart that's, you know, saying yes to him. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
For sure. And that's obviously the news is leading up to How to Start a Housefire Part 2 that's going to be out next month, which I'm sure is exciting for everybody. And it wasn't like that's the first release for you all this year either, because January was when you did How to Start a Housefire. So just curious if you want to talk a little bit about how those are coming out so quickly, how they kind of, since they're named 1 and 2, kind of how they connect and can continue the story and the message that you're trying to do with those music.
Totally. I mean, we captured all of this like a year ago, the beginning of 2022. And so the reason it can come out so quickly is because all these things, we collected all these moments pretty much within the same few nights. So both How to Start a Housefire and Part 2 were all recorded like in some writing camps that we were at here in Atlanta. And we would like start the day and end the night with times of worship, just like all of us and friends of ours, and playing songs that we had, some of those songs we had written like just a couple weeks before, even during the writing camps. And so we've had a bunch short up until now, like a whole lot of songs. And so it's really exciting, and I feel like it's just a continuation of kind of the theme of this album. I mean, Nate's been excited about this idea of how to start a house fire for years, and we could talk all about that. But it feels like it captures the same spirit. I actually listened to the record all the way through for the first time a couple of days ago, and it feels like it's got that same spirit of just keeping it simple, coming back to what matters, focusing on like our intimacy with God and each other. It feels amazing. I was glad to hear a bunch more Nate on this record too. So. He's all over
very
this
kind, very generous. Yeah, I think there were just so many songs that couldn't fit on one record, and Part 1 had so many moments too. You know, I don't know how many tracks officially, maybe like 15 or 16, but that's like a pretty full experience as it is. But yeah, we just we do these writing camps with our community and our extended community back in Atlanta pretty frequently. And yeah, that's like where we do our live recordings, because it just feels so integrated into like what we do and who we are. Like, this is our community. This is where we write the songs. I mean, it's, yeah. So How to Start a Housefire is connected to all that. Like Blake was saying, we recorded at those camps. You know, we would do worship in the morning and just kind of press record, and you never know like what songs or moments are going to make it, and that keeps it pure. You know what I mean? It keeps it honest. Like, we're actually just showing up to lead worship. Like, you know, there's cameras and stuff, so you know it's being recorded just in case, but we went into that like not knowing what the record was going to look like in totality, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's also nerve-wracking because you're like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, I'm like 20 years into leading worship and I still feel that. But it's pure, and there's this safe, like homey feeling about it, you know? But yeah, the vision of How to Start a Housefire part 1 and part 2 was just really to capture the essence of house fires and where the ministry first began. You know, just the essence of, hey, we really simply write these songs that move us, and our prayers that they would move people in our community, and, you know, go out from there. And what I like to say is kind of the vision, even of the title is, you know, traveling the last 10 years all over the world. We do a lot of Q&As, and you know, I spend time after our worship nights just talking to people. And one of the most frequent questions we've gotten is like, how do I start something like this where I am? And my little Baptist church in the middle of Mississippi, or, you know, my Anglican charismatic church in the middle of England. Like, there's something about this. People, you know, hundreds of people have come up through the years. Just like, there's something about the spirit of this, like, that has just touched me, that's lit my heart on fire again. How could I like start something like this? So in a very long explained way, that's how we got the title of the record, was just like, hey, let's capture and gather and curate moments and songs that feel like, you know, we're back in a living room in 2014 when we recorded our very first project. And so it carries that spirit of God, that essence of house fires, houses that are set ablaze with the presence and the love of God, where everyone's welcome and they can jump in, even if they're just listening or watching the video on YouTube, like that. It's invitational, that people feel like they were a part of it. Yeah.
No, for sure. And I kind of was guessing, but definitely wanted to ask, with that title having such of a personal touch, with having the group, the collective's name within the title, and how to start, and, you know, like the whole message, it definitely seemed like there was a deep connection that the collective had with these songs. So I was definitely going to ask how that kind of sets this project, you know, both of the albums together as a full project, kind of apart from the other work that you've done. And I think you've already touched on that pretty well for us. So
Absolutely. And just to like give you a little, like a quick history, and forgive me, I could talk and talk about this, but like Housefires kind of started not accidentally, because God knows what he's doing, and he planted the vision in our hearts. But the vision of the church that we all originally started at, that Blake leads worship at, and Kirby, one of our other artist leaders, is the worship pastor there, called Grace Midtown in the heart of Atlanta. The pastors kind of got a vision from the Lord. What was it, Blake? Probably 2013.
Yeah.
And the vision that they felt like they got was just these houses that were on fire all across the city of Atlanta, and really connected to just like this house church movement, more than small groups, a little bit more than just like a dinner club where people can meet. And, you know, that's all a part of it, like breaking bread, fellowship, praying, sharing all things in common, kind of this Acts 42 model. But yeah, so I mean, we were already doing that in our church community, and these songs started to come out very organically, very like raw, None of us were really proper songwriters other than Pat. And yeah, that was the vision that even got us the name Housefires. The vision was to see these houses lit on fire all across the city. So this is a continuation of that, you know, almost 10 years later, which is just beautiful, and grateful for the whole journey.
Absolutely. I'm curious, you mentioned that both of the projects kind of came together from, you know, a writer's retreat weeks and things, and then just putting, you know, turning things on and, you know, capturing the moments and seeing what struck for you. And you mentioned a few times that there were moments that just happened organically out of those type of situations. I'm curious if, you know, looking back now, which one of those like still stand out for you, and if there's any like particular tracks that you're really excited to be able to be out there in that way.
Oh, Blake, take that, bro.
Oh, I mean, there were so many. I feel like, I mean, there are a lot that were special to me during the recording of this. I mean, one, which I would assume is what Nate's kind of teeing up, is I wasn't planning to be on this record, or really even a part of this thing. I was just writing in the community, whatever. And there's a song on part one called If I Could Have Anything that I had written with a close friend of mine of like 20 years, like 2 or 3 weeks before. And long story short, ended up just going to the sound check just to hear it. I wanted to hear how it sounded. And then next thing you know, I'm like hopping down on the keys, singing it in a key I've never sang it in. It's a duet. I'm singing it with someone I just met that morning. And now, I mean, that song has, you know, gone around the world at this point, and it's doing its thing, and it's meaning something to people. And so it's that kind of like just press record and see what happens that I think makes this project feel really distinct. I mean, there are like entire moments coming up on part two that are just like spontaneous flows with like Nate, Harvest, Ryan just going for it. And it feels like, I remember when I would to the like Housefires worship nights 7-8 years ago, just come through with friends of mine, and it is the same thing that these guys have been doing for years. And so it feels really nice. And I think also, like, for so many of us, we hadn't been in environments like this in a couple of years with the pandemic and lockdown and even our own journeys. And so to come back together and kind of see what happens, you can't really fabricate it. And so the chaos is kind of what makes it special. And there's like a holy chaos on the record. So
Holy chaos. I think that's a good catchphrase
Yeah.
for that.
That's Housefires right there.
Our 9th record, debuting in 2024, will be called Holy Chaos. You heard it here first with Jesse Clark's of The Christian Beat.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh no, that's great. And if I'm not mistaken, I think later this month you'll be releasing the first track off of part 2. Can't Nobody, if I'm not mistaken. So just curious a little bit on why you're choosing that one for the group to kind of be that first point of the message for part 2.
What you think, Nate?
Sorry, I'm muted. I think the chorus is really simple, you know, can't nobody love me like you, keep on giving me life. And that it repeats. I think we've always aimed to like write simple songs, because I think there's something about simplicity that sticks with people, even kids, right? Like my daughter can remember these songs, and there's something beautiful about the accessibility of simplicity. And this song is simple, but it's like the melodies run deep. It's like got a deep pocket. When you hear it, you're just gonna be like, oh man, it's soulful. It like makes you want to kind of get up and dance a little bit. Can't nobody love me like you. I mean, it's like, it's got this R&B thing that's just fun. It's spunky. Yeah, I mean, I think, gosh, if you're thinking real technically, practically, like, how do you start a house fire? You receive the love of God. You know, you answer the invitation of the Father to receive his love, to participate in his love, to love him back, you know, to love the world because we've been loved by God, right? 1 John 4. And yeah, I think this song just stands out because it's really well written, but it was just a really fun moment, you know. We don't always have songs that are like kind of upbeat and groovy, but this one is really special. And it's still stuck in my head like a year plus later. So
Yeah, right.
And Mariah, who led it, is just a really special young artist and leader. Yeah, can't wait to see what happens with the song. I think people are going to really dig it and connect with it.
Awesome. I can't wait. And I know that in part one, and I'm assuming for part two as well, you had a list of collabs and a guest artist that joined in. Just curious, you know, how some of those come to be, if it's past working relationships that bring them in, if it's friendships, you know, how you basically pull together those types of collaborations.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think, oh, go ahead, Blake.
Well, I was just gonna say it's kind of a combination of all those things. Like so many of these people are people that, you know, we've written with, we've hung with, we've been friends with for years. And then also a lot of people who, honestly, like a lot of these writing camps we were part of were with, you know, Maverick City and TRIBL. And what's happened there has been just this total collaboration, like gathering people from all over to just get to know each other and write songs and see what comes out of it. And so many of these came from that. Like even Mariah or Cecily or Doe, these are people who like really got connected to us because of what's going on with Maverick City. And then, you know, there's some people like Davey and Ryan and myself who have been friends with Kirby and Nate and the rest of the squad for a really long time. And so much of it comes out of like just old relationships and people who we just resonate with and who kind of get the spirit and the vibe of what Housefire has been doing. Like you think about like Aja Walls, she's just been doing stuff with her family for years, doing like gospel R&B. And then she hops onto a record like this one and she just knocks it out of the park because she gets what Housefire has been doing for all these years.
That's awesome. And it's great to hear that, you know, it goes past that just working relationship, if you will, which I think is also a testament probably to the collective and the name of the collective and the mission and the vision behind the group, that it is those friendships and those collaborations between different groups, for sure.
Totally.
I know we're coming close to probably time here, but I am curious for each of you, either personally or professionally. I know that you're setting up the first part of this year with such big releases, but I'm curious what you're kind of most expectant for if you look at this year like as a whole. Obviously starting off strong for sure, but I'm just curious for each of you what you're most expectant for this full year.
That's a good question.
Man.
Nate, you go.
Yeah. Well, personally, no, I'm just kidding. We'll keep it to the band. I'd like to take a trip to Japan.
Yeah, right.
I'm just being dumb. No, I think it's the way I see it is it's a fresh start. You know, this is kind of our third iteration of the band. You know, we've been a band 9 years, which is wild. And yeah, we have fresh faces, fresh voices, artists that are jumping in. It just feels really fresh. And I'm just excited to take this thing on the road. I mean, nothing's been announced. I know there's some things in the works, but I think, you know, we did a little tour. We jumped on the Kingdom tour with Maverick City and Kirk last summer, excuse me. And that was amazing. But I think I'm excited for us to kind of do our own headlining tour and have a bunch of friends jump in. And of course, it'll be a little bit smaller scale. Won't be doing arenas, but I don't know. You know, we used to, true to the genesis of Housefires, where we would have these monthly worship nights at the church back in Atlanta every month up until the pandemic hit. I mean, we took a little time off. Kirby had a couple babies. I had a baby in 2019, but we would legit do a worship night every month. And so I think that's always been our vision, like for ministry and music on the road, is just to kind of take those Housefires worship nights wherever the doors open. So I am envisioning and hoping just for an awesome tour that's full of ministry and just refreshing moments for people, especially coming off the last couple of years. I know we've all been through collective trauma, individual heartache and pain and disappointment. And yeah, I just, I'm stoked to get back out on the road. So.
That's awesome.
I'm with you, Nate. I feel like it's the same sort of thing. I'm ready for us to just all get together and be able to worship together, write songs together, live life together, and kind of see what kind of magic comes from it. I feel real open-handed with this year, but I'm with you, Nate. Like taking this to places and letting people hop in with this feels super exciting, and does really feel like a fresh start.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to again thank you both, Nate and Blake, for taking the time to chat today, hear more about the group, the music, the things coming up for the group. It's all exciting, and I just thank you again.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Jesse.
Thanks so much, Jesse.
Appreciate you. Stay
Absolutely.
safe and warm.
Yeah, stay warm.
Keep that candle burning now.
You
Keep
bet.
the candle burning.
In the name of the Lord. Thank you for putting up with our shenanigans.
No, it was a great time. I really appreciate it.
Amazing.